Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, though in all reality there won't be a ton of Star Wars talk this time because the question that we have for the poll that I put out this week was, what do you think the future of AI in entertainment should be? And of course I will also be reading and responding to some of the comments left on the poll. But wasting no time, let's get right to the results, where we will see that 2% of voters said AI should be doing nearly everything, 4% said it should have a rather large role, 60% then said it has its place and purpose, just not a large one, and then 34% said it shouldn't be used at all or used only very, very minimally. Alright, so very quickly here, because I do want to get to those comments. There were a lot of them. There were a lot of really, really good ones. I read through all of them. I kind of picked out a bunch of them, and I'll do some at random, more or less, coming up here. But very quickly, these results kind of surprised me, but it was a welcome surprise. I thought more people would be in favor of AI having a bigger role, and I'm happy to see that's not the case. Now, I didn't think it would be like overwhelmingly positive towards it. I do know there are a lot of people who have legitimate and very serious fears when it comes to AI, even beyond just its role in entertainment. But we won't be talking so much about any of that here. We're just going to keep it to the entertainment industry and its impact on that potentially. But anyway, kind of happy to see that a lot of people are not on board with AI necessarily, or it again having a rather large role. I recently had my own little experience with AI, which we will get to in the comments soon enough, and it has brought on this poll. But before getting to that, I very quickly have to say thank you to everybody who votes or comments or watches these or any of my videos across both channels. Thank you so much for that. And a big, big thank you to those who support the channel over on Patreon. But now let's get to the comments, and we start with this one from the top-rated comment from Danko Kamchevsky, who said, "So far, anything made by AI reminds me of a decorative plastic fruit that was popular when I was a kid." And this is a fantastic comment that I think sums up AI, or what I've seen from AI, even though there is some really good AI out there, don't get me wrong, but this sums it up perfectly. And this is going to segue right into my own little story, because as a lot of you may know, I have been working on my own project, my own little series. I've done fan fiction stories before. I've really, really wanted to get back to them. I had this big project a couple years back that I was going to redo the sequels, and I had a ton of people on board, and it just kind of fell apart, which was my fault. I bit off way more than I could chew, and I had this really big team of awesome and very talented people. And again, I just couldn't guide that ship to success. It was during COVID, so a lot of people had a lot of free time, and then all of a sudden people were going back to work and back to school and all these things. So it just fell apart for a lot of different reasons, mainly mine. So I wanted to do a bigger project, but I wanted to do it myself. And so I figured I'm going to try using AI to do art and maybe do some voices and some background music. And I've been working on this for quite a while now and had a good chunk of it kind of together. And when I watched it, it felt like plastic. It felt like plastic fruit is the best way to put it. There was something not genuine about it. But it wasn't bad. And mind you, I'm not an expert in this, so it's somebody who is not talented in this sort of thing, trying to piece different aspects of AI together to, well, I don't know, I felt like Frankenstein making a monster. But I was trying to put it all together. And again, it didn't look terrible, but it just didn't look quite right. And so I scrapped the whole idea, and I'm just going to go back to doing things simple. I kind of want to ask people maybe for some very basic artwork, because right now I don't even have any visuals to put with it because it's all my own original work. A lot of times when I did fan fictions, I would take other characters or known, beloved characters and use that and kind of patch things together. But anyway, to stop myself from rambling, I think I'm going to put a list in the comments below. I'm going to pin a list down there. And if you are an artist, if you want to create something, an image, and don't go over the top, don't go crazy, because I might get multiple submissions here. I hope I do, actually. So I don't even know that I will use yours. I'll probably use multiple people's. But anyway, I'm going to put a list of like 5 or 6 things down there, I think it'll be. And if you feel like it, I'll also include the email address you can send it to, and maybe I'll use it in my upcoming story. And if I do or don't, either way, thank you for everybody who will ultimately, hopefully, send something in. All right, I'm just going to move on now to this comment from Hunted for Blood, who said, "Okay, so I'm a biomedical engineer, and I've done a fair bit with AI, so I'm by no means one of those armchair experts who says AI isn't intelligent because it's just copying things. But when it comes to art, I do think it's fair to say that AIs can only ever produce content and never art. And as such, the more you use AI in an art piece, the more artistically compromised it is. So a little bit is tolerable. We all have to accept compromises in commercially produced art. But I don't think anyone wants to read, watch, play something that isn't an expression of an idea created by a real human artist. And very well said here, and I agree that art is something made by human beings. Again, I go back to my experience and what I was creating, and there was just something about it that didn't feel genuine. That's the only way I can put it. And a lot of the AI I have seen looks the same. There is something just uncanny about it. And yes, I realize in the future, and I don't mean the distant future, I mean maybe a couple of years from now, if not less, it may very well be indistinguishable from quote-unquote real art, or art made just solely or almost solely by human beings, because I'm not opposed to the idea of using AI art here and there for certain things. And again, I'm not an expert in any of this either, so keep that in mind. This is just the opinion of the layman who is watching the world change before their very eyes, who when they were very young scribbled on pieces of paper and could have never imagined in their wildest dreams that someday I would be able to type a prompt into a computer and have it create art. That would have blown the mind of young Thor 40 years ago. But anyway, I agree, art is the expression of a human being through numerous different types of mediums, whether that be songs or visual or poetry, whatever the hell it might be, that is art. And I'm sorry, future robots who will go back and scour the internet for people who oppose them, but I'm sorry, what you create is not art, in my opinion. Alright, and moving right along, we now have a comment here from the animation connoisseur who said, AI, in my opinion, should only be used supplementally to take on some of the more menial or boring tasks that come up when you're making a movie or TV show, like, say, removing background noise, cutting certain things out of a shot that aren't necessary, cleaning up visual effects, stuff like that. When you let it handle an entire entertainment project of that magnitude on its own, it stops being something made from human ingenuity and creativity, and is instead just a computer creating something it was told to do. It's not a substitute for those things whatsoever. And yeah, I also agree with this. I think there are, again, not an expert in any of these fields necessarily, but I think there are certainly things, making video games, making movies, making shows, where there are very menial tasks that probably take hours upon hours for a human being to sit there and do, or you could type it into a computer and have AI do it in a matter of seconds, potentially. And I really don't have much of a problem with that if it's just doing something that is, like you say, cleaning up a shot, or just doing something that would take hours and be of no real artistic value, shall we say. That it's just doing some grunt work. Now, maybe the problem with that, and I saw a few comments arguing this, is that even when it does do the menial tasks, it is taking away a human being's job. It is taking someone who would have sat there for hours and cleaned up the shot, and now that job is gone. Now, you could argue that, well, that's not much of a job necessarily, that even if you are in that position, that you may not love what you're doing and you're only there because it's an entry-level position. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of this industry, so I can't speak as any kind of authority. But I would say there's kind of a give and take here. I would imagine most people who are in animation don't want to sit there working on a frame for hours upon hours to clean something out, when they could literally just type in the computer to do it and it would be done in seconds. Okay, and now we move on to this comment from Uranic, who said, as someone who does a good bit of machine learning work, I will always see AI images media generation as artificial, manufactured, mathematical. There is no meticulous intention behind it because it is inherently a shortcut. Instead of thinking about each detail in a scene, a prompt summarizes the most rudimentary description of what it should have. Because if you want the intention behind every wardrobe choice, set piece, facial expression, and color tone, you need control. And instead of hammering away at prompts that won't ever give you the actual vision inside your mind, you're better off doing it from scratch. Think about why you'd want to use AI. Isn't it just a shortcut that saves you from thinking about the subtle details? Think about your favorite shows. What could AI have added or improved? From a human perspective, we should leave ourselves the privilege of art. Nobody wants to do menial tasks, but most of us have something to say. So let the AI do the work and let us take the time to work on our arts. Very, very well said. And again, quickly going back to my own experience, what I found to be the most frustrating part was, no, I couldn't get exactly what I wanted or saw in my head, my imagination. I could not get it to be created by AI. I would put in prompts, and no matter what I would do, sometimes it just could not get it right. Whereas if I was working with a human artist, it would be much, much easier to point at something and say, hey, I don't like this color. It needs to be a little darker. It needs to be a little lighter. And yeah, you can try to do that with AI. but it just never feels right. And I'm not saying another human being can ever exactly duplicate what I see in my imagination, but I do think they can usually get much closer. Not to mention they're also having to, as you point out, they're having to think about the details. They're putting their own imagination into it. It's a collaboration. It's a creation between two people, two individual artists, and not an artist or someone who wants to be an artist but isn't, and a computer. All right, and next up here we have this comment from Falcon Paladin who said, "Should has nothing to do with it. It's coming anyway. It will be good enough and widely cheaper than how movies and TV are made now." And you are 100% right. I don't think anything is going to stop AI from pretty much taking over a large chunk of the entertainment industry, especially in the years to come. And maybe in the future, people will sort of rebel against it and demand real art. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe we just suck it up and everybody deals with it and it becomes the standard. I have no real idea what the future is going to look like when it comes to this. But the question was, how do you feel? Not whether or not it's going to happen. Or the question is more, do you feel like this should happen? It's kind of like going back to Jurassic Park. One of my favorite quotes in a movie ever. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. And something tells me that many years from now, after the robot apocalypse or the AI apocalypse happens, that's what future human beings are going to say about us right now. We never stop to think if we should do this. We only stop to think if we could, and if it would make us cheaper entertainment and cheaper labor and cheaper everything. We only thought about how it could be used to profit or benefit us, and we never thought about any long-term repercussions. Now, I'm not saying I think there's going to be an apocalypse, that the robots are going to Skynet or anything like that. But who knows, something like that could happen. And again, I think we will be looking back, or the future generations will look back and say, what were they thinking? Why did they never stop to think, should we do this, not could we do this? All right, let's move on from the apocalypse, and I think we will finish off this video with this comment from Scott Hodgkins. Though, again, thank you to everybody who left comments. I did read them, all of them. There were, I think, a few hundred of them, so thank you for that. A lot of really good ones. So again, this final one said, I have so much to say about this. 1, authenticity is valued in entertainment. We want the stories to feel real, the actors to show real emotions, and the creative process behind it all to be driven by passion. Until AI creates on its own for itself, anything it creates will lack authenticity. 2, AI is going to allow independent storytellers to achieve AAA quality effects and production. Actors' performances can be composited in or altered. Andy Serkis is a legend for giving life to a digital character, and soon a lot more people will be able to follow in his footsteps, only at a tiny fraction of the cost. I'm really excited by what AI will change about how movies, shows, and other content gets made. 3, we can opine on the ethics and preferred direction of AI, but it looks like we're looking at a few more years of unregulated development of AI, but honestly, I think we should worry about the loss of everyday normal jobs. And I think you do a good job here of bringing up some of the potential benefits and potential pitfalls of AI. That, yeah, it is kind of cool that virtually anybody can now sit down and create something spectacular. That even if you don't have a shred of artistic talent when it comes to drawing or painting or anything in that field, you can still bring your visions to life and you can share them with the world. So I guess there are some potential positives there that people will be able to create and share, and then maybe after they have been successful there, they can collaborate with other human beings and create something that way. Something that will feel more authentic because it is, again, real people. And I do wonder if, in time, authenticity will become what people actually crave. I've seen a lot of comments, and this one kind of touches on it too, of people saying, yeah, we're probably going to have this AI revolution in the next decade where they're going to be doing everything, but after that, there are going to be people who want human art again. That even if AI becomes fantastic, almost indistinguishable from whatever humans can create, people will still prefer it even if they don't or can't see the difference. They're going to want to know actual human beings made this, not that it was made by machines. But anyway, I think that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and weigh in on this one. Tell me what you think about AI art. Tell me what you think the future of it looks like and what you think the future should look like. Or if you are an artist yourself and you potentially want your work included in my next story video, I'm going to pin a comment down below of images or pictures I'm looking for, and you can send them to the email address. Again, don't go crazy because I can't guarantee I'm going to use yours. I might get a ton of submissions, I might get no submissions, so we'll see. Either way, take to the comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars or some AI. And until next time, thanks for watching.